Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. Dalit and Adivasi organizations today call for a Bharat bandh, demanding a wider representation of the marginalized communities and wanting a wider representation, in fact, in jobs and education, and also to protect their constitutional rights. Now, this Bharat Bandh comes in the backdrop of August 1st verdict by the Supreme Court on the subcategorization of the SC and the ST quota, and the controversy also around the lateral entry for the civil services. Now, what have these Dalit and the Adivasi organizations demanded today? They've come out with a list of demands. Now, what are they? Let's just list it out for you. They've urged the government to reject the Supreme Court judgment, which came on August 1st. They've called for a new central act protected from the judicial review under the ninth schedule of the Constitution. Then they've also demanded the immediate release of the caste-based data on SC, ST, OBC employees in government services to ensure accurate representation. Then they've asked to fill up the backlog vacancies in central and state government departments. Then they've urged the private firms to carry on their affirmative action if these private firms are enjoying the government subsidies. So these are a few set of demands, but we'll try and understand the legal aspect of it, the political aspect of it, because what we have seen is that Congress, left, then JMM, all these parties, RJD, they have supported the Bharat Bandh, and the most surprising thing was the stance which was taken by Chirag Paswan, who happens to be the ally of the Modi government, and he supported the Bharat Bandh. So, what turn would the politics take? So, we try and understand the legal, social, and the political aspects. Joining me now is veteran Supreme Court lawyer Sanjay Hegde. So, thank you so much for joining. We have Captain Dinesh Chandra, who's a renowned Dalit activist, and also Priyadarshi Talang, who's a renowned Dalit activist. Both of you, thank you so much for joining. We have Javed Ansari, who's a senior journalist and political commentator. Thank you, Javed, sir, for joining. And Pushpraj Deshpande, who's the author of the Bharat Jodo Yatra and also works closely with the India Alliance. And also joining us is S. Srinivasan, who's the editor-in-chief of The Federal. Thank you, Srini, sir, for joining. And I'll begin today's conversation with Captain Dinesh Chandra. Dinesh Chandra, I'm sorry, Dinesh Chandra, I'll come to you later because I know Mr. Hegde has to rush. So I'll come to him, and I'll come straight away to the demands which have been listed by these Adivasi groups. Now, they've asked the government to reject the Supreme Court judgment, come up with a central act which should be protected from the judicial review under the ninth schedule. Now, is that possible? Is that really possible? Yes, Mr.
Well, to tell your viewers, I actually have argued this matter at the five-judge stage. I opposed subcategorization, and at the seven-judge stage, I was an intervener. Now, the point that the Supreme Court, before the Supreme Court, was that when there is one list of scheduled castes, which the president by notification puts, can the states further subcategorize it based on whatever their perceptions of greater backwardness and all that? The old judgment, which was Chinnaya, said no, you can either add to the list or you can take away from the list, but the list as a whole is a composite whole, and that which the central government put together, let no state government put asunder. The seven judges now hold that the states can still micromanage the list. You may have all these people in the scheduled caste list, but if you feel that certain scheduled castes are underrepresented among the scheduled castes, then then the states can take appropriate affirmative action. So, to put it in layman's terms, you can distinguish between those who are merely untouchable and those who were formerly unseeable. So, this, in a sense, puts aside the homogeneity that the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes had. Everybody had a common heritage of untouchability. Now we have given state governments the power to say somebody is even more untouchable. Therefore, I will try and protect him even more. What this effectively does is to break the unity of the scheduled castes. There are other dangers that I also foresee. Today, often what happens is that when a reserve category post is not filled because they say that there are not enough candidates who qualify, then the post sometimes reverts back to general, and as a consequence, reserve posts never get filled. Now, if you reserve posts for a particular section of the scheduled castes alone, and those two then start getting reserved, getting back only to the general category, what may happen is that this will be used as a tool for further exclusion of the reserved category. So, therefore, all these demands, and the demand that, now you declare it by law that this forms one composite class, and you insulate it from judicial review by putting it into the ninth schedule, uh, has uh, has some constitutional basis for it, because even where Tamil Nadu, for instance, has reservations beyond the 50% limit, it has been immunized by putting it in the ninth schedule. What scope the politics takes from here, that you have better guess to answer.
But Mr. Higde, you would definitely see this as a turning point, this verdict which was given out by the Supreme Court on August 1st.
Yes, because right from around 2000, when the Chinnaya verdict came out, uh, the idea that scheduled castes were one composite whole had found constitutional acceptance. Earlier also, there have been always these problems between the Malas and the Madigas in uh, Andhra Pradesh, between the non-Jata class in Uttar Pradesh. So this thing of scheduled and even more scheduled uh, creates so much havoc at the state level. For instance, one of the problems is in Manipur. In Manipur, half the problem is because one community is seen as a scheduled tribe. Now, if the Manipur government were to say that, look, that scheduled tribe is not is scheduled, yes, but we will reserve only for the even more scheduled, then effectively you can hollow out reservations. So there is a case which the Dalit leadership has taken up.
Right.
Let us see. There may be legal remedies. There may be political remedies.
So you are saying that there is a case as what the Dalit and the Adivasi groups have put out. And one quick question, and then I'll go to Captain Dinesh Chandra on this. That many people are saying that the government should bring in an ordinance. So whether it should be an ordinance or a new central act, a regular act, it depends on the government's political will, which means, Mr. Hegde?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. You see, this government has got used to ruling by ordinance. So therefore, now demands have come for ordinances. Give us
Yes.
a quick fix legislative solution. You've done it in the past. Overnight,
Right.
you had the EWS. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
the government may possibly be asked why it is dragging its feet.
All right, all right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I know
Thank
you are really in a hurry today, so I'll let you go. Thank you so much again.
you.
And I'll come to Captain Dinesh Chandra now. Dinesh Chandra, do you see the government really caught in a bind at the moment? As far as the demands which have come up from the Adivasi and the Dalit groups, and now the government really doesn't know how to take this forward.
To say that government really doesn't know, I think it will be too harsh on the government. The people sitting there, they know what to do. But of course, even if they know what to do, because they will not do, or probably they don't have will to do, because willingly they have done this. Now the question is, why this has been done, and why court has given such a verdict, which probably up to certain extent goes against the constitutional provisions. When the constitution says clearly that the subject is not does not rest with the states, it has to be discussed and debated by the parliament. Then why court has given such a verdict which contravenes the constitutional provisions? Second question is, The stakeholder, the main stakeholders, scheduled caste, did they ask this? I don't think they have asked this.
Right.
Then why such things where stakeholder is not asked and the stakeholder is not involved? Who are those persons who are taking up such matters? And this has come, such things have come again and again since last 11 years. They definitely, the political motive is the main thought process of the present regime. I'll tell you, the day this verdict came, we were sitting with the Valmikis, probably whom it is indicated that they are the most untouchables. So few of them, they were happy. बोले सर ये तो पिछले 70 सालों से हमारा हक खा रहे हैं सब, और अब हमको न्याय मिलेगा. So results were immediately visible, and then you may see so many comments on X as well Twitter from the Valmiki community, and few of them, they have been abusing the Jatovs. So up to a certain extent, political motive is achieved. They may have to track back, they may have to go back on their words, but up to a certain extent, they have achieved the political motive. Why? Because now this section is of the opinion that present ruling dispensation is the only party who gives us इज्जत. कहते हैं लोग कि हमें इज्जत दे दिया इन्होंने. Now is the whatever verdict court has given, I believe they have squarely gone on the principles of natural justice without considering the social and other factors for these castes. They have only gone as per the principle of natural justice कि भाई ठीक है, अगर जो बहुत ज्यादा बैकवर्ड जो अनटचेबल्स हैं उनको आगे लाना है. Yes, probably court may be thinking, court may be right in their thinking, but is this the correct measure which court has suggested? They cannot come to the correct answer to it unless until they have.
What you are saying is that the court has not taken into account the practical social realities, and they've just gone by the principles of natural justice.
Exactly.
All right. Now,
So
on this point, let me
are,
speak. All right. You complete your point, then I'll come to Priyadarshi. Okay. Yeah.
okay. Now, court could have gone through the data or collected the data supporting their verdict, or the court could have studied the actual factors which prevented them from coming up. Why the government efforts have failed in their case. If you go to their jungis, go to their bastis, you will find very few of us, they are inclined to go to schools. Why? Was there an effort made by the government to ensure that they also go to school? So court could have been cautious in giving verdict. We cannot openly defy the court. The court is 100% wrong. That is why I say probably court has only followed the principle of natural justice without going into the facts.
All right. Now let me come to Priyadarshi Talang. That what would you say about this Supreme Court verdict which came on first, and the Bharat bandh which has happened, the kind of demands which are coming up? Do you think that this is a fit case now for bringing in the caste census, of which all the opposition parties, Rahul Gandhi has been hammering on being the caste census? Now, does this look like a fit case for bringing in a caste census? Priyadarshi.
No, it's very true that to define or come up with new policies and programs, we certainly require data. And there is from past few years, government is trying to hide the data. May it be with scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, or may it be with other census. From 2021, we should have completed the decadal census, but we have not attempted even. COVID was not limited to India. COVID was there in Bangladesh, COVID was there in Nepal, COVID was there in United States. Those countries completed their census, and we, the Vishwaguru, were not able to start it. So if we need to have different policies and programs, we certainly need data. And in the judgment, this seven judges bench has completely missed the data point. I mean, they have smuggled the concept of economic criteria from Mandal Commission case and applied creamy layer over here. Right? Constitution provides affirmative action on the ground of socially and educationally backward. Even in Mandal case, they have come up with this economic criteria, and EWS is now constitutionally valid. So if there is a political will, then whatever demand which are being put forth today in Bharat Bandh, it can be easily granted. But there is no political will by the parties who are in power and by those parties also who are not in power. Caste census is not a demand from last few years. It's a demand from long back when Congress was also in power. But then in the due course of time, Congress has never conducted those caste census, right? Right from the Planning Commission, right from the Pandit Nehru, they thought that there should not be caste census, so they didn't conduct it, right? But wherever Congress government has conducted the caste census, take it for example Karnataka, they have conducted caste census there, but they have not made it public. So on one hand, though Rahul Gandhi is saying that there should be a caste census, and I agree that there should be caste census, but after conducting caste census or after conducting socio-economic caste census, what happened? They conducted socio-economic caste census long back also in 2011. On one side, BJP government is saying there is a lot of error, multiple errors are there. Congress at that period of time was also saying the same thing. So there is no difference when Congress and BJP, it comes to a issue of caste or when it comes to a issue of reservation, they both follow conspiracy of silence. They both are silent on this issue. And
So,
unfortunately, media is also silent on issues of caste. So if you take the judgment now, what will happen? The person who has qualified after pursuing 15, 16 years of education and making efforts for 2 years to secure a job, that person or that family will be not be eligible henceforth. So from that argument point of view, Justice B.R. Gavai should give his resignation because he is beneficiary. He became judge when his father was speaker in Vidhan Parishad in Maharashtra. So he should first resign from the post, being a creamy layer. So if you practice in that way, the person or the family who has taken efforts to come out of this container of caste, to come out of the container of caste practices and untouchability and secured higher education, after making efforts, they will be uneligible, not eligible. And if you take a data of premier institute like Institute of Management, there are 104 faculties in IIM Ahmedabad. There is no OBC, no scheduled caste, no scheduled tribe. What happened to those posts? Why government can't give a white paper on the post in public sectors, on the post in central universities and state universities? I will give you one example. We have an institute called NICER in Bhubaneswar, like that of ICERs in various other cities. ICERs or NICER are basically to do basic research on basic sciences. Now this NICER is operated by Department of Atomic Energy. Though this NICER is taking amount from special component plan and tribal sub plan, hundreds of crores are given to this institute, but they don't give any reservation to students in PhD. They don't give any reservation to faculties.
right.
So on one hand, you want money of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe from their component plans. Every IITs and every IIM take money from every UGC institute, take money from scheduled caste component plan or scheduled tribe component plan, but they don't provide basic necessary facilities. On one hand, government is withdrawing itself from the education. Government is withdrawing itself from parameters like health, parameters like housing, and on the other hand, when we go for our rights to judiciary, judiciary will say no, affluent people among the scheduled caste
Priyadarshy,
have
I've
taken
got
the
your
top
point.
post.
Priyadarshy, yeah, I'll interrupt you here because I've got your point. You are blaming the judiciary, you are blaming the political parties for undertaking some very half-baked measures. You're blaming the entire system for it. But I'll come to Javed Ansari now on the kind of political turn which this would take. The Supreme Court verdict comes out and the kind of stance which is being taken by the political parties. And as what Priyadarshi said, that even the Congress has not taken the steps which it should have. And he's given the example of Karnataka, where they undertook the caste census, but they failed to publish the data. So, what would you really now say? That everything now depends on the political will. So, a lot of onus will lie on the state government and also a lot of responsibility on the central government as well. Javed. You'll have to unmute Javed. I think you're muted. Yes.
Look, I believe this issue is a bit undercooked at the moment. Chirag Paswan, when the judgment first came, Mayawati, after a couple of days or a week after the judgment, she held a press conference and made some feeble protests, blamed the Congress and the BJP, and that got quiet. It's only now that Mr. Chirag Paswan has raised his voice that other political parties are also now waking up to the potential that this could become a major fault line, that this could become a major issue. And the speaker before me was absolutely right. Both national parties, even the Congress party, they haven't walked the talk. Rahul Gandhi, I don't believe that there is a unanimity of views in the Congress party on this issue. Rahul Gandhi believes one thing, the old guard, the entrenched interest, Congress party's core support base, it tends to be pulling the other way. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes. The BJP will also be under pressure. Now that this call, now after Chirag Paswan raised his voice, there's been this call for Bharat bandh, and the Congress and the left and everybody have lent their support. But you need to walk the talk if you really believe in this, and this has to go beyond a mere political slogan or a vote catching gimmick. Then you need to implement all this. You have a government in Karnataka. What's stopping you from implementing it? Why
But
just
you do,
blame the
Javed sir, but you do see a severe crisis brewing up before the Modi government. If more and more protests like these happen, and I was speaking to a
certainly.
few activists in the morning, and they said that this will take a bigger shape in the days to come.
So that's why I said it's undercooked. The more the pressure rises from the ground, the political parties will perforce will have to, especially the Congress and the BJP. BJP is in power. Questions will first be asked of the BJP. If they resist, there's a precedent before that. They use their majority in the House to overturn the Supreme Court verdict in the Chief Election Commissioner's case. So there will be pressure to do the same, and there will be pressure on other political parties to support that measure so that the BJP gets a two-thirds majority. The government has this move gets the support of two-thirds and more for it to pass in the Lok Sabha and in
Right.
the Rajya Sabha. So political parties in days to come will be under greater pressure.
Right. So if the political parties are going to be under great pressure, Pushpraj, I'll come to you and then I'll come for the final comments to Srini sir to summarize the whole issue. Pushpraj, now the onus lies on the political parties, and as what Javed and also Priyadarshi has been saying, that even Congress has not walked the talk. So what would you say? This entire narrative of which Rahul Gandhi has been talking about, that whether it is the reservations and the lateral entry or otherwise, so all that sounds hollow in that light.
Niluji, thank you for having me on the Federal. See, first things first, when the 2011 socioeconomic caste census was conducted, we were in government at that time. And I remember that by the time it was completed, it was February 2014, 2 months before the Lok Sabha elections. And that time there were too many discrepancies, and I happened to know exactly what was going on, what was the problem there. It was felt that the data needed to be cleaned up, right? And the issue is that it was felt that the government, the rural ministry, development ministry, would continue that work after the government change and release the data. One tranche of the data was released publicly, and if you go and see the socioeconomic website, you will see assets across this thing. It is still available online. Some part of the data which is cleaned, which is available, has been released. The second part of the data, which is got to do with educational income status, that data was not matched with the census, and that was why it was not put out. That was the first thing. The second thing is, as of so, let us not attribute intention, malified intention, to something that was a purely administrative issue. I'm not going into the history of what happened and why the census did not, it was not included as a part of the census. That is a totally different issue. I want to focus on what is happening today and not go back 10 years before this. That's one thing. The second thing is, what is happening today is that the Supreme Court order, with all due respect to the Supreme Court, has basically opened a can of worms, which it should not, ideally speaking, have done, because reservations was not meant to be was meant to redress graded inequalities based on casteism, based on caste discrimination, not on the fact that there was no question of reviewing it on the basis of income qualifiers. That is one big problem which the Supreme Court judgment doesn't really look at. That is one problem. The second thing is, the BJP is obviously doing this to break any kind of Bahujan unity between the communities of the Dalit sub communities, subcaste, as well as the OBC subcaste. Now the problem is that the reason it is doing this is because for the better part of the last 15 years, the BJP has been working with subcaste Dalits and subcaste OBCs. In fact, if you see the Agniveer program, and I don't mean the Agniveer, the armed force program, there is a program that they have been running in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, and other places called Agniveer, which started in 2014, which basically work with subcaste and try to appropriate them. And their basic thing is that let us pit the subcaste against the dominant caste. That has been their political strategy, that we will now create this structural, we will create this cultural, social fault line on the basis of who is appropriating the benefits of reservation. That is the BJP's political tactic. Why they are doing this is because it's the first past the post system. They basically work with micro communities, get enough votes so that they're able to cross that magic figure of 30-35%. That is the BJP's political point. Now the problem is, the reason why this has been engineered at this juncture is because in this election there has been a concerted effort. There have been concerted efforts and a genuine fear amongst Dalits, Adivasis, and OBCs that the BJP wants to amend the constitution and get rid of reservations. And there are multiple things that they have been doing in that. Now, the first question that we need to pose as progressive forces to the BJP, because they are in government, it is very nice for us to start pointing fingers at people who are in opposition. It is their prerogative to do so. But the first onus of answering the public today is the government. So let us first ask the government, why is it that they have not been able to fill up the backlog? If they were able to fill up the backlog, you would have been able to accommodate multiple subcasts. There is a huge percentage of backlog in just 9 ministries. In 2021, the government admitted that over 50,000 posts are still pending in just 9 top ministries. I'm not even talking about government corporations, PSUs, and the other ministries. That is one part. The second thing is, because of greater contractualization, over 1.3 lakh posts have been lost for STs that were originally reserved for STs.
These all programs and policies were brought up by the Congress only. I mean, Congress
I don't remember.
started initiated this.
One, Priyadarshi, let him complete the point.
Anyone in this program. I would really like it if I was given the benefit of doubt and allowed to speak and make my point.
Yes, Priyadarshi, just let him complete the point, please. Yes, Pushpraj.
And again, the second point is that contractualization has managed to shrink the share of the pie. Now the problem is that the third thing is that because of privatization in the national monetization pipeline, in the last 3 years, over 5 lakh jobs overall, not just reserve jobs, but over 5 lakh jobs in PSUs have been lost. Now the share of the pie is shrinking. And please understand this, that you can continue to argue that what did the Congress government do, what did the BJP government do before this, what did the Devagowda government do before this, what did the Gujarat government do before this. But this was the policy that was a bipartisan consensus. One can argue about the demerits and merits about this, but we are not in the business of historical revisionism. Let us look at the reality today. Today, over the last 4 or 5 years, the India bloc and the Congress party has been meticulously amending its approach to unemployment and social justice. It is saying that we need to deepen India's social justice program, and doing that means expanding the share of the pie by doing caste census. That is one part of this thing. So there is actually a total 180-degree shift in thinking. You are not arguing. See, I'm not saying that the Congress party is a monolith body which completely stands by the new pension scheme, for instance, or the fact that we need to do greater contractualization, or the fact that you need to disinvest. There is a body of thought in every party that agrees to do that, wants to do this. That has existed since 1991, but that we're not living in that reality anymore. That has changed now. Today we are talking about the state intervening to create jobs, to deepen social justice programs, and it is in that context that we must be arguing, not something that happened 10 years ago.
All right, so we'll just give a few seconds to Priyadarshi because he was making a point. Quickly, make your point, and then I'll go to Srini sir.
Yeah, I will again go back to Karnataka.
Yes.
Apart from this discourse of social justice, what happened in this budget? 14,000 crore diverted by Karnataka government of scheduled caste. So on one hand, you are saying, yes, we are in the guise of protection of constitution, we need to garner the votes of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. But when it comes to the implementation of policies or programs for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, Congress take away those provisions. There are many examples like this. And if you take contractual jobs, they were initiated by Congress, privatization initiated by Congress, and second more important thing, which I want to flag over here, is that when we see there should be equal representation, diversified representation, I would like to ask Congress and its leader, where is this diversification in their party structure? Where there is diversification in the entire structure which is managed and controlled by Congress.
Srini sir has been waiting for long. Towards the end, I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes. Srini sir, now I really want to understand the case, how it is coming up, the politics behind it, and the social and the political aspects. How would you really understand? Because it's really becoming very, very complicated. A lot of onus lies on the state governments. A lot of it has to be done by the central government. How do you really see this problem? Because it's a huge crisis which is brewing up. Yes, Srini sir.
Yeah, so there are two aspects to that. One is the social issue, of course, on which the community is very worked up. And all of us, the previous speakers have articulated more or less major points about it. Now, the backwardness is not uniform. Within the scheduled caste community, it is not uniform, it is graded. And it's seen as if there is a kind of a there is a creamy layer attempt being created within that community as well. I'm not mixing it with the creamy layer of backwards. I'm saying within that, there is a fear that, perhaps a creamy layer is being created. That's one worry. Now, the other thing which has happened is within these, within the scheduled caste, there are various communities, there are various divisions. Say, for instance, you take example of Tamil Nadu. There is a 7 division within that community, and not all of them have got all the benefits. So the worry is that by doing this subclassification, perhaps that once again order is being created within that community. Now that's one. And if you look at the way, it is not as if all posts, even central government jobs, there are about 40 lakh sanctioned jobs. Out of that, 9 lakhs or so are unfulfilled. And even if you look at those jobs, what are the kind of jobs those are filled? If you have to look from A, B, C, basically most jobs are filled in the lower category, which is reserved for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. They don't find themselves in the upper echelons. So if you look across the society, there are a lot of such disparities which still exist. So, though the court is right now not touching the creamy layer issue and it's only going after subcategorization, but it is still considered by the community, especially SC and ST community, as a very dangerous move. And therefore, obviously, they have taken it up. And one thing which has happened is that there is at least a debate on this issue, and there is a discussion, and it has opened up. And like some of our speakers are, like Javed said, that the onus lies across all political parties. Congress, of course, is changing its stand currently. It is actually making it as a very sharp weapon to take on BJP. But BJP has a problem here. They want to tackle this issue politically. They have a huge problem because they have benefited by manipulating this kind of policy in the past. For instance, in Uttar Pradesh, they managed to get very convenient, comfortable power by doing a kind of social engineering where they took advantage of the graded caste structure and took some of those people from the lower end, and then combined that to make a very good mathematics for them, which worked for them in the election. And there is a worry, therefore, within the community that this may actually further subdivide the community, and therefore the resistance is coming from scheduled castes, at least those who are better organized. And even the scheduled tribes should be wary of this. Therefore, this issue is much larger than what we are currently seeing.
Absolutely. Yes, I'll let Pushpraj make his point, and then a final word to Captain Dinesh Chandra. Yes, Pushpraj.
Neeluji, thank you again for giving me this thing. See, the larger point I was trying to make is that, see, what the BJP is doing, facilitated and misusing the Supreme Court's judgment, it is now going to be a political process that subcaste and dominant caste, both OBCs and Dalits, will have to have a conversation on what the consensus is going to be going forward. That political process needs to be adjudicated by the political party. That is the first thing. The second thing is that there is both a political element and there is a policy element to this. And when I say policy, I mean the principal element in this. One could argue, as Madiga groups, as Matang groups, as others have been arguing, Valmikis have been arguing, that they need to be given a share of the pie with regard to employment and education. That's a perfectly valid demand. How you want to achieve that? Whether I was involved in the drafting of the SCSP-TSP Act at the national level and in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. So I know for a fact that one could apportion a section of the targeted expenditure for that and give them reservation in existing course and as well as schemes. That is one way of doing it. There is, do you need to actually create a separate legislation for that? That remains to be seen. But if there is a legitimate demand that they feel that they have not been getting due share, that needs to be addressed from a purely principle point of view. However, the political angle of this is that the BJP is trying to create a wedge between dominant subcastes and, on the other hand, between different communities, Dalit, OBC, and so on and so forth. We need to bridge that process. That is the political process, and it's not going to happen overnight. One could keep talking about the past, and I want to answer to two factual things. One is that someone argued about the fact that the Congress party is not really being internally being this thing. It is the only party in the country apart from DMK whose Article 6A and B reserves for 33% posts for SC, STs and another 20-something% for women. And I have actually seen the figures of that 33%, 28% has been filled up across the posts from the parliament to the panchayat, including in ticket distribution. That's one thing. So please check the facts of the matter. That is one thing. The second thing, as of the SCSP-TSP Act, the minister who was responsible for diverting funds, the tribal minister, was sacked. It was not a government policy. One recalcitrant minister was found wrong and punished for it. It was not part that you cannot club apples and oranges as saying that the BJP's malified intent is the same as this thing. And the last thing is SCSP-TSP Act divergent. I actually have the figures. The number of beneficiaries on the 5 schemes, 31 lakh SC/ST beneficiaries in the Gruha Lakshmi Yojana, 85 lakhs in the Anna Bhaga Yojana, 13.9 lakh in the Gruha Jyoti, Yuva Nidhi 33,000, and Shakti totally 928 crore rupees. So the point is that this is targeted expenditure that fits under Article 7, Section 7C of the SCSP-TSP Act. And I know this because I was involved in that drafting. So I know for a fact that diversion has not happened with regard to those 5 schemes, and I have the facts and figures. Government has
All right.
put it out. Please look at the record. Don't make rhetorical statements.
Okay,
Remove
now
those.
I really,
Remove
Priyadarshi, I
those
cannot
section.
allow. No, Priyadarshi,
Remove
please.
seven. Remove
Priyadarshi,
seven
I'm
section.
really
Yeah.
running out of time. Let me get in the concluding comment from Captain Dinesh Chandra. I'll have to wind up the show because it's really getting very long. Captain Dinesh Chandra, over to you now for the final comments. Where do you see this entire situation? Srinisa has explained it beautifully, all the aspects. The other panelists have also made their point. What would you say towards the end? Very briefly, sir. Very briefly.
Nice to see that young people are so deeply involved in it. But gentlemen, Srini sir has rightly articulated and rightly said, and in a very articulated fashion. But let us see where the solution lies. We all keep talking about political parties. Do we really think that the solution lies with the political parties? Because all the political parties, their first aim is to see their political हित कि उनका राजनीतिक हित किधर है. So definitely actual solution does not lie with the political party. The actual solution lies with the society. The society where this divide was created, the same society can bridge this divide. Fortunately, I am working to push through SC/ST Development Act now. So let me I also know, and probably it was started from Telangana via Karnataka and Uttarakhand, then Himachal, and now it is simmering in Uttar Pradesh. So we are actively involved in it. So the solution lies with the society. So as a society as a whole, irrespective of caste and creed, let us work towards the development of the whole development of the country. This is what we must think, and we must think about it. Thank you.
All right, all right. So we definitely, what I've gathered from the entire discussion is that we're almost on the cusp of a new era of politics as far as social justice is concerned, which needs some legal remedies, it needs some political remedies, and of course, prescriptions as well. Thank you so much, Srini sir, Captain Dinesh Chandra, Priyadarshi. I think, yes, Srini sir. Sorry, yeah.
I just have one thing to say. Of course, most social reforms have to come from the society, but then the government is there to give correct policy prescriptions so that it nudges towards a particular direction. And we have seen the advantage of reservation over the years. It has certainly helped intermediate castes, but then there is another layer which is waiting there to be benefited fully. Therefore, I think government too plays, and these policies play a very important role. And that's all I want to say.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Srini sir, Pushpraj, Priyadarshi, thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this discussion, subscribe to our channel, send us a feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal.